So what if the Aztecs defeated the Spanish? Welcome back to the Historical Hint channel, where we dive into cool stories from the past. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of counterfactual history. I am, of course, referring to the famous Battle of 1520 when the Spanish conquistadors led by Hernán Cortés defeated the Aztec Empire at the Battle of Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City. And this was such an important moment in history because it basically started the process of colonialism in the Americas, where over the next couple of centuries the riches of the Americas would flow back to Europe and change the entire balance of power in the world. Without that vast wealth of the Americas flowing into Spain, Europe's balance of power would have been completely different. The Spanish would not have been able to fund their wars. Other colonial empires may not have risen or may have done so in ways that were completely unrecognizable. But most importantly, the native cultures of Mesoamerica would have survived and evolved on their own terms. And so today, we are going to explore just how different our modern world would be if the Aztecs had won that battle in 1520 and went on to win their war for independence against the Spanish. So let's get into it. If we go back to 1520, there are two main reasons why the Aztecs were unable to defeat the Spanish. The first one was because of superior Spanish weaponry, including steel swords and armor, horses and guns. And the second reason was because of disease. Smallpox, which the Spanish brought with them from Europe, devastated the Aztec population who'd never even seen a Spaniard before. Some historians estimate that up to 90% of indigenous people in the Americas died from European diseases after contact was made. This is actually believed to be one of the major reasons why the Aztecs lost the war, since they lost a huge portion of their population before the war was even fought. So let's make the assumption that by some miracle, the Aztecs managed to beat the Spanish. They managed to kill Cortés and his conquistadors and send the rest of them running back to Spain in fear. Well, then suddenly the playing field is very different. The Spaniards would no longer feel like they could conquer the Aztecs or any other natives in the Americas. And without the threat of European colonization, the Aztec Empire would flourish and grow and survive for many more years. In fact, we can look at the Inca Empire as an example of what might have happened. The Inca were able to successfully fight off the Spanish conquistadors who tried to invade their territory, but the Inca also had one fatal flaw. They did not have a writing system. And when the Spanish arrived, they were able to use written language to their advantage, using the concept of the letter to spread propaganda, news, and orders throughout their empire. Meanwhile, the Inca used a knotted rope system known as quipu to record numerical data. And while quipu can be used to record things like census data, they can't really be used to spread messages across a large empire. In fact, when the Inca Emperor Atahualpa was captured by the Spanish conquistadors, one of the first things that the Spanish did was demand that Atahualpa bring them a room full of gold and silver in exchange for his freedom. And he brought them so much gold and silver that it literally took 8 men to carry it out of the room. The Spanish then killed Atahualpa anyway, taking all of his treasure. If the Aztecs had writing, if they had developed a printing press, and if they were able to successfully fend off the conquistadors, then they could have fended off the conquistadors and potentially even gone on to colonize Central America and the Caribbean and maybe even Florida and the southeastern United States. The Aztecs had powerful military forces and were ruled by a strong central government. The Aztec Empire spanned central Mexico and included hundreds of city-states and millions of subjects. Aztec society was divided into 3 classes. The first class was made up of the nobility, which was mostly hereditary. Then there was the merchant class, which was very important to the economy of the Aztec Empire. Merchants traded all sorts of goods, including luxury items like feathers and cotton, as well as basic necessities like food and tools. The lowest class was the artisan and labor class, which was made up of farmers, merchants, soldiers, priests, and laborers. The Aztecs were a highly stratified society, but there was some social mobility. For example, a merchant could become a member of the nobility if he married into a noble family. Similarly, A farmer could become a soldier and move up to the next class if he distinguished himself in battle. In addition, the Aztecs had a very sophisticated political system. The empire was ruled by an emperor who was both a political and religious leader. The emperor was assisted by a council of nobles who advised him on matters of state. The council was also responsible for passing laws and collecting taxes. The Aztecs also had a complex legal system. The empire was divided into 18 provinces, each of which was governed by a local lord. The lord was responsible for maintaining order in his province and for collecting taxes. He was also responsible for providing the emperor with troops if he needed them. The Aztecs also had a very advanced economy. The empire was based on agriculture and the main crops were maize, beans, and squash. The Aztecs also raised turkeys and dogs and hunted wild game. Trade was very important to the economy of the Aztec Empire. Merchants traveled throughout the empire and beyond to trade goods. The main trading partners of the Aztecs were the Maya and the merchants. Traded goods such as feathers, cotton, chocolate, and tobacco. But by far the most important aspect of the Aztec Empire was its religion. The Aztecs were polytheistic, and they believed that the world was created by a god named Quetzalcoatl. The Aztecs worshipped many gods and goddesses, but the most important were Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, and Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility. The Aztecs built many temples to honor their gods, and they held festivals and rituals throughout the year. One of the most important festivals was the Festival of the Dead, which was celebrated in the month of August. The Aztecs believed that the dead could return to Earth during this festival, so they built special altars and made offerings of food and flowers. In addition to their religion, the Aztecs also had a rich culture. The Aztecs were skilled artists, and they created beautiful works of art in a variety of media, including sculpture, painting, and architecture. The Aztecs also had a sophisticated system of education. The nobility were educated in the arts of government and warfare, while the children of merchants and artisans were trained in their parents' professions. The Spanish invasion of the Aztec Empire was a devastating blow to the indigenous people of the Americas. The Aztecs were a highly advanced civilization with a rich culture and a strong economy, but they were ultimately defeated by the Spanish conquistadors. However, what if the Aztecs had won the war? If the Aztecs had been able to defeat the Spanish conquistadors, they may have gone on to become a global power. The Aztecs were a very warlike people, and they had a strong military. They may have used their military to conquer other indigenous tribes in the Americas and to resist future European invasions. If the Aztecs had not been destroyed by the Spanish, then the indigenous cultures of the Americas would still be thriving today. There would be tens of millions of native speakers of Nahuatl, the Aztec language. There would be cities with millions of people in them called Tenochtitlan, and there would be a myriad of different societies with unique cultural traditions that we would be able to learn about and experience if the Aztecs had won that battle in 1520. Today, we speak Spanish in Mexico and many parts of Central and South America because of the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. If the Aztecs had won, then it is likely that we would be speaking a language like Nahuatl in these areas today. We may also have adopted some of the customs and traditions of the Aztecs, such as their religion or their art. The Aztecs were a very advanced civilization for their time. They had a sophisticated system of government, a strong economy, and a rich culture. If they had been able to continue to develop along their own path, they may have accomplished even greater things. It is possible that we would be living in a world today where the Aztec Empire is still standing and that we would be able to learn about and experience a civilization that was truly unique. We will never know what would have happened if the Aztecs had won the Battle of 1520 and gone on to defeat the Spanish conquistadors. But it is an interesting thought experiment that can help us to better understand the history of the Americas. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What If. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment down below. What do you think our modern world would be like if the Aztecs had won? Let me know your theories in the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.